WorldNet Daily, we are live. It is Friday, October 4, 2024. Welcome to the program. Every vote matters. Folks, we are 32 days from Election Day. I cannot believe we are this close and only getting closer. And today we have a very special guest on the program because we're going to go over one of the more crucial elements of this election cycle across the country here is focusing on the state of Pennsylvania. President Trump is in Pennsylvania tomorrow. He's going back there to Butler, the site of the first assassination attempt. So that's going to be pretty historic. There is his post there. I'm coming back to Butler. I mean, it is, I don't know what to expect. Elon Musk tweeted out that he's going to be there. And so we'll definitely be paying attention to that. One other person that's going to be there is the founder of the PA Chase, Cliff Maloney, who joins us now, along with WorldNet Daily contributor Brian Allman and, of course, Josh Turnbow. Gentlemen, how are you this afternoon?
Doing great. Thanks
Good,
for
Matt.
having me, y'all.
Good. Now, Cliff, welcome to the program. We have a post here or a screenshot here of the New York Post. They put out an article yesterday that said here, with Election Day looming, Pennsylvania Republicans are closing the gap with Democrats for mail-in ballot requests. And this particular article goes on to describe your specific efforts with the PA Chase. So I want to hand it over to you. I want you to tell the audience here, what is the PA Chase and what have you been doing to close the gap here?
Yeah, well, let me give a lot of credit to Ethan Dodd, that reporter, because it's some of the best reporting I've seen, really understanding that the numbers that matter, it's not the polls, right? If you really want to track what matters, obviously to win an election, votes are most important. But in Pennsylvania, we now have 50 days of mail-in voting, okay? And so also looking at who's requesting ballots, when the ballots go out, which ones are coming back, those are some of the most important indicators to decide an election. So our whole program, the Pennsylvania Chase, it's very simple. In 2020, Trump lost Pennsylvania by 80,000 votes, but 141,000 Republicans requested a mail-in ballot and never sent it back. So in Pennsylvania, there's 50 days of voting, but you have to request a ballot. It's not automatically sent like some of these commie states where every voter is getting a mail-in ballot. You have to actually go through the process and request it. And so what I tell people is, what am I trying to solve with the Pennsylvania Chase? It's simple. We cannot have that situation again where the delta of how many people we lost by, the number of requested Republicans is larger than. And so our entire plan of action is simple. We have 120 full-time ballot chasers on the ground. They've been on the ground since September 1st. We're trying to knock 500,000 doors, targeting Republican voters that have a mail-in ballot. So far, we've knocked just short of 200,000. So we are on track to be there by November 5th. But that's what this whole program is about, starting to compete with the Democrats, fighting fire with fire, and fixing this mail-in ballot problem that Republicans have had since they changed the rules.
Yeah, and you're pretty prolific on X. We have a post here from your account at Maloney on X here, and you're doing a really great job of keeping people up to speed here. Long days, long nights, nothing can stop the ballot chasing we are doing in PA. 500,000 doors. We will not stop until we get there. Let's win. So you say you are almost at 200,000 doors
Wow.
knocked. That's incredible. We also have video of some of these chasers that we can throw up side by side here, I think, just to kind of get a broad scope of who are the people that are knocking at the door. So tell us a little bit about these chasers. Who are these people?
Yeah, so look, we hire based on ideology. I'm sure an attorney out there is going to tell me to stop saying that out loud, but it's the truth, and I'm going to speak the truth. But we look for folks that are dedicated to the cause. And look, we've run door programs, okay? We've done advocacy campaigns. We've done a lot of elections at the state level in the different states we play in. Since we've really started to understand the left's tactic of paid ground games, we've knocked on over 6 million doors. We've won over 300 elections at the state level using this strategy of paid, ideologically aligned door knockers. And what I tell people all the time is, after 2022, we just realized that we weren't adapting as Republicans to these new rules. And so you have an option. Either you forfeit and you say, hey, we can't we can't compete with mail-in ballots. We're just going to still vote only on election day. Or you put a plan together and execute it. And so these knockers, I mean, they're from all over. A lot of them are based in Pennsylvania. We have 10 Airbnbs where we house them. And the results that we're seeing so far at the door make me completely optimistic. And hearing those conversations, looking at our daily reports. But it's the hard work and the groundwork that we're doing. That's what wins the election. Not a perfect TV script. No offense, Matt. Not some $1 million ad buy that goes on top of the other 500 million. No, it's doing the groundwork day to day and making sure every Republican votes.
Yeah. Josh, what do you think? I mean, we're watching these things, all this stuff unfold across the country here, and to really talk to somebody who's grassroots, literally boots on the ground.
Yeah.
You're the resident doomer here. How is this plan sound to you?
Yeah. I mean, I thought voting was canceled already. So this is great news, Cliff. No, I'm joking. Cliff, I think it's awesome. You mentioned that you're adapting to the rules, and I feel like what you're doing is different than what we normally do as Republicans, which is we don't build things, we lose, and we don't adapt. So I think it's awesome what you're doing. And in fact, we kind of like did a survey here in the office, like how many people knew what a chase is, and nobody knew what a chase is because we're just kind of out to lunch on our side. That's why we're so thrilled to have you on the show, because you're explaining a mechanism that we've kind of maybe it's one of the reasons we lose all the time. So I'm hopeful. I mean, look, my doomer soul is brightening a little bit in anticipation of a Trump win. After talking to you, Cliff, I feel better, honestly.
Well, let me give 2 quick points here. Number one, I look at it as this. Probably the best example I've come up with is, let's say you have a 50-day sales competition, right? Mm-hmm. I don't care if you're selling Girl Scout cookies or you're in some corporate office. If your opponent gets 50 days to go out and make sales, but you tell everybody that you're trying to pitch, listen, I'm just going to try to meet with everybody on the last day, right? You better have a great last day of sales, right? And that has been the Republican mindset. And look, I get it, because if you look at the culture of Republicans, if you look at the environment of how we interpreted things, and this is the projection I had, the same trajectory that I would say Donald Trump has had, which is in 2020, we all said there's potential for fraud. We're going to vote on election day because it's secure. And what happened? A lot of the low propensity people who might have voted if they had a ballot, they didn't. Okay, 2021, we said, well, maybe the courts will fix it. They didn't. Right. 2022, we said, well, let's hope the lawmakers in Pennsylvania will do it. We lost the PA House in 2022. We lost the majority. And so they didn't do it. So in 2023, we all got punched in the nose. And we were like, maybe we should figure out a way to adapt and react. And I got to give credit. I won't give credit to Ronna McDaniel's RNC, but Laura Trump, Michael Whatley, Charlie Kirk at Turning Point, Scott Pressler at Early Vote Action, our group, Citizens Alliance, running the Pennsylvania Chase. It's full synergy. As much as we can legally, there is sharing of targets, sharing of data. It's what the left does. But 2024 is the first time Republicans have finally came together, and I think that's what you have to do to win.
Yeah, and it sounds like everything's kind of gelling at the right moment. Brian, you're always on the positive side. I want to show this positive clip here. Speaking of cookies, Cliff, there's a bakery in Pennsylvania that sells campaign cookies. Check this clip out.
Loshol's Bakery in Philly is holding their traditional cookie poll where they sell cookies of each candidate and track the results. Their latest tally, look at this, showing Trump leading by almost 5,000 cookies against the VP. That's a lot of sugar. Kathleen.
That's
his
what
Trump
do you think?
Voice. I love it.
Brian, what do you see the cookie poll? Yeah, you see the cookie poll. We
might be
losing
Cliff
out there on the ground.
Matt, we
what's
might
your
be
take?
losing you a little.
Yeah. No, I think that's a positive sign. There's something intangible when it comes to presidential campaigns. I think people have also used the metric of which one has the most Halloween costumes, the week before Election Day. So there is something intangible when it comes to a candidate who's more charismatic, who's really connecting more with the American people. I think it's a little different now because people didn't really vote for Biden in 2020. They voted against Trump. And so all the votes for Harris this year are going to be against Trump. I think there's very few people who are really enthusiastic about Kamala Harris. There's a few who pretend to be, but so we'll see. I mean, these are all positive signs. The polls are looking good. The energy is looking good. The fact that you have, Cliff and Charlie and all these other folks out there who are adapting to the new terrain. That is something that Republicans have had trouble doing in the past. It's like when you're playing football, whoever were the first team to come up with the play action, pretending to hand the ball off and then passing it. If all the other teams looked at it and said, well, we're not going to do that because that's dishonest. It's against the spirit of the rules. We want to go back to a good old fashioned game of football. Well, they're going to lose. So you have to adapt to the new tactics and new strategies. And it's really great to see that. In Pennsylvania, looking at all the maps, I've got a 270 to win up on my other screen. Every combination of states that leads to a Trump victory centers around Pennsylvania. It literally is the keystone state to this election, if I can be so bold. So it's great to see so many people on the ground there, because I think the election will be won or lost in Pennsylvania, depending on if Republicans bother to turn out, if they return these absentee ballots, these mail-in ballots, and then show up otherwise.
Yeah, great. And hopefully everybody can hear me again. Cliff, I wanted to ask you, when we look at some of these polls and we see, 1 point here, 5 point here, you've got an army out there talking to voters. What is the sentiment? Are people excited? Are they turning in their ballots? Are they saying, no, I'm going to go on election day? What's the conversations that happening at the door?
Yeah, let me give you guys something personal that's been kind of awesome with me being here. So, when I was asked to do this about a year ago, they said, look, can you take all of your door knocking teams? You guys do this, you build infrastructure, you know how to hire people, vet them, put them in housing, you know how to track all results and have quality control and train them to be impactful at the door. Pennsylvania is my home state. My entire family's in Delaware County. I spent my first 18 years of my life there. I went to school out in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. There's nothing cooler than being somebody that is an operative that loves to look at the numbers, figure out strategy and win, backed by ideology. That's an important part. But to be able to get assigned to go back to your home state, because now I'm talking to old neighbors, I'm in communities that I know. And Matt, to answer your question directly, the results have been fantastic. There are two major numbers I'll point out for everybody, and then we can talk about some of the interactions at the door. Number one, registration. Okay, I don't take any credit for registration. I give a lot of that credit to Joe Biden and his horrific economy and horrific policies.
Yes.
And the other people I'd give credit to are folks like Scott Pressler, who are out there at every gun show, every church gathering, every rally, registering people 12 hours a day. I mean, the guy is a machine. The reason I look at that is that's a real number that impacts the race. But the other number that I look, and by the way, the number is we've cut it in half. So they were up by 700,000, roughly 700,000 more Democrats than Republicans via registration in 2020. And right now we're at less than a 350,000 advantage. I mean, that is something that everybody's talking about, but I don't think they're realizing the impact that has. To see the drop in registration that the Democrats have had when it comes to the lead. The second number is when you look at mail-in ballot requests. So this is what we're doing. We're targeting Republicans. And listen, in 2020, Biden had 2 million mail-in votes. I'm not talking requests, mail-in votes. Trump had less than 600,000. So 2 million to 600,000 going into election day. And we still almost pulled it off, only losing by 80,000 votes. But if you look at the requests, it will tell you so much about where we were 4 years ago compared to now. Sure, there was a pandemic, but both Republicans and Democrats had to request during that time. Sure, there's no pandemic now, or at least not yet. We'll see what comes in October. But we have the same environment they have to request in now. Democrats are down 414,000 mail-in ballot requests compared to where they were in 2020. So you might say, okay, well, what are Republicans down? We're only down 87,000. Yes, they're still beating us. But what I'm telling you is when you take that math and you realize that we have more than a 300,000 net advantage compared to where we were 4 years ago, and the registration drip, I am very optimistic if the Republicans in the state vote, we win the election. The only way we lose is if we don't master mail-in ballots and at least get competitive and turn out on election day. This is our election to lose. It is not our election to win. We have this thing with the numbers. We have to turn out and we have to show up.
Wow. Yeah. Great numbers there. You going through it like that. I think it gives people a lot of hope. I think, seeing that the headlines, what you're doing has ramification, is making headlines with all these different news outlets. You have to then, of course, put your doomer cap on, right? And think, well, how are they're just going to cheat harder? We have Scott Pressler apparently found out that during the Butler rally that PA decided to do some maintenance on their registration website. Let's watch this clip real fast.
We discovered by going to the voter registration website for Pennsylvania that they were scheduling maintenance during the exact time that President Trump is doing his rally, his historic rally, triumphant return to the site of the assassination attempt in Butler. Now, anyone that knows anything about IT knows that usually maintenance is done in wee hours of the morning, 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. This was scheduled originally from Saturday, October 5th, from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. And just for our viewer to know, the Trump rally was going to begin at 5 p.m. And so it was clear that the Pennsylvania Department of State was engaging in election interference, trying to stop all of this national attention from translating into new voter registrations. And so our early vote action team posted across social media. And I want to give a shout out to Laura Trump, because Laura Trump immediately flagged this issue. And I'm proud to say, Jack, that time has been changed now to 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. I'm still not 100% happy with this. I think it's still election interference, but it shows you public pressure campaigns that are peaceful, they work and get things done.
Yeah, incredible. And Cliff, so this goes back to my other question. When you're talking to people at the door, are these Republicans skeptical about the cheating, about the rigging, about all of the shenanigans that are out there?
Yeah, well, let me just say this. One, you see Scott Pressler's living out of a hotel, so I want to say thank you to Scott. We're both living the same life for the past 5 months here in Pennsylvania, crisscrossing the state. Look, here's what I said when I first agreed to take on this program. I hate mail-in ballots. The New York Times made fun of me. CNN made fun of me. The guy running Trump's ballot operation in Pennsylvania said he hates mail-in ballots. I do hate them. I'm not here to be the spokesman. I'm not the advocate. I'm not here to say I like them. I want a single day of voting. I'd love paper ballots. I'd love hand counts. I don't want any machines. Those aren't the rules, right? And so to fix this, we have to figure out a way to play by the rules and try to make it as secure as possible. I'll give the RNC credit. They've stepped up. They're supplying the attorneys, right? Trump's campaign, the PACs, they're all doing the big money ads, the messaging, the TV, the radio, the digital, the texting. Me, Charlie, Scott, all of our groups, owning the ground game. And there's plenty of other partners out there, right? It's not just us. But what I tell people is this. The path to victory in Pennsylvania is through the dark, dark ruby red counties, okay? So what we're doing is we're not going in. Yes, we're knocking some doors in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh because there are some targeted voters we want to turn out. But the vast majority of the doors that we're knocking, we are trying to get in red counties where there are 75% turnout, bump that up to the high 80s, the low 90s. There's enough votes out there in Republican counties. Why does that matter? Because Republican clerks will count the ballots. And one big note on election integrity, anybody that's worried, Philadelphia County and Allegheny County have a major problem. If you were somebody that said, oh, they're going to tamper with it, you can't mess with a ballot that doesn't go out. And when you're down 414,000 raw ballots across the state, most of which are in those two counties for Democrats, it gives me a lot of hope because it's less for them to mess with. If ballots went out in 2020 to a house where people moved or somebody died, a lot of those ballots came back. Call me nuts, call me whatever you want. When those ballots aren't going out, they can't come back. And so you look at the numbers from 2020, their return rate was wild. And they say, oh, well, we targeted Philly and Pittsburgh. Give me a break. There's no way those many ballots came back. But when less ballots go out, it's less opportunity for tampering and much more opportunity for a Republican win.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Okay, well, like I said at the top, you're headed to Butler tomorrow for the big rally. Brian, I want to go to you first, real quick. What should we expect? What do we expect the spectacle will be tomorrow?
Well, I expect them to cover the roof this time. No,
Maybe.
That's it right there. Yeah,
it really speaks to Donald Trump's character and his courage that he goes back to this place. I don't think there's much of a chance of something bad happening, especially with all the attention it's going to have from everybody. But just the force of will to go back to this place where he came just an inch away from death and stand back up and finish what he started, and it shows the character of Trump compared to the other side. Harris can't even go have an interview with a friendly moderator. And so I think it's inspiring. I think it's going to help, hopefully in Pennsylvania, but also across the nation to see this. The more people see Trump for real, not the caricature that the media has built up, I think the more they believe that he can take the lead in solving these problems that the country has and pull us out of the last 4 years of misery, of all these problems we've had. It's the VP debate was the same thing. The media had built up this caricature of JD Vance, but then when they saw him for real, they saw that he's calm and collected and intelligent and compassionate. Same thing with Trump. The people are going to see him going back on that stage where he almost died. And even if they're not able to articulate it, even if they're resisting it, I think it's going to stir something inside people to inspire them to come out and vote.
Yeah, I think you're right. Cliff, what do you guys expect to walk into tomorrow in Butler? Are you knocking in Butler? Is that one of the places, one of the counties that your walkers are in?
Yeah, it's one of the areas. And even if our paid folks aren't, Scott Presler's covering it. We've got volunteers. It is a county that we need to do well in. And I think Trump coming back, it is an historic moment. I personally feel as if, it did not get the coverage in terms of, this was an assassination attempt. The guy got shot in the face. And I still feel like all of us are going to look back 10, 15 years from now. And it's like, I don't think we really understood the gravity of the situation. We did maybe for 72 hours. Maybe the people here did, but I just feel like the general public, it really, really could have caused some chaos that I don't know was irreversible. I'm going tomorrow with Rico Elmore. He's one of the activists we've trained, great guy involved with the GOP out in Western PA. He spoke at the Butler rally. He was sitting very close and helped triage one of the individuals that was shot. He's a patriot, he's a hero, very nice kid. And I'm going to be joined with him for the event, and he's going to be speaking again. So look out for him. Rico, great guy. But I think the rally is about, bringing everybody together. And this is something to remind folks that we're not scared. We are going to fight. Or as Trump would say, fight, fight, fight. I hate when people say this is the most important election in our lifetime. I'm 33 years old. People said that about George Bush. They said it about John McCain. They even said about Mitt Romney, for gosh sakes. I truly believe that now. When people say it, I can at least connect with it. If we lose this election, I do fear for the Republic. I think this is our one chance to fix the system by getting Trump back in there, making our election secure. And look, Democrats nationally, I would much rather be Republicans in terms of trajectory. And I'm not just talking about this election. I'm saying people voting for that party or for their leaders. Democrats are alienating everybody. They're hemorrhaging with blacks, Hispanics. They're hemorrhaging, still with white men and even the suburban women. A lot of them are coming around to Trump because of this horrible economy. So what is the Democrat message? Who is their constituency? And I truly believe the only way they can compete for national office after this cycle is with illegals coming into the country. And so that, when you understand it, makes a lot of sense. But that's why we have to get Trump elected. We have to secure the border. And that's how we save the Republic.
Woo. Come on, Josh. You're feeling good now, right?
Feeling less doomer. Hearing Cliff. Let's see. We got, let's see how we're doing. I'm still going to buy bullets. I'm going to still buy some water. Okay. That's just, I should always do that. So
Yeah, fair
One
enough.
thing I think people need to remember is, we can build up this idea in our heads that the Democratic machine is just invincible. They're, they can do anything. They can flip votes on a whim and just steal this state. But that's not the case. Stealing elections takes a lot of work, and the changes that the Republicans have made in Turning Point USA and Cliff and his crew have made over the last 4 years are leveling that playing field, making it harder for them to cheat, making it easier for us to get our votes out. So it's, don't go into this thinking that there's no chance that, they're just going to steal it. If, like Cliff said, if Republicans turn out and actually vote, we win. That's the entire thing. There's nothing else to say.
Yeah. No, you're right. Go ahead,
and Brian, I'll say this. I mean, people tell me sometimes, like, Cliff, should you be telling the Democrats all of these numbers? Should you be sharing kind of what you're doing and what the results have been? I'm like, guys, they look at this every minute. They are shaking in their Birkenstocks. They are just losing their minds. They're not spending less money than they did in 2020. They're spending more, right? They have more people in the field than they did in 2020. So imagine spending more money trying to get these requests, having more people in the field, and you're still down 414,000 requests. It's not that they're going to all of a sudden wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, you know what we should have done? We should focus on requests. Now, look, maybe the energy comes in later. Maybe Democrats start getting excited again about Kamala Harris. I don't know. But we look at the trends. Democrats always had a bump late August, early September in terms of these requests. They missed the bump. It came and went. And so while we're working it to keep our numbers as close as we can to 2020, we're only down 87,000. They went from 1.2 million to 800,000 requests. They are scared. They are trying to figure out what's going on, and they just keep relying on these mainstream polls. That's fine. Let them keep spreading that message. We'll continue to get requests, and we'll continue to get those mail-in ballots in because, Brian, you're right. If Republicans vote, we win. The numbers are with us right now.
Well, what's really positive thinking. Lost the word there for a moment, but when you mentioned, how Laura Trump and the new leadership of the RNC is that they really are getting behind this. They've apparently have activated thousands of volunteers. The story, they activated thousands of volunteers, thousands of lawyers to ensure election integrity. And so when you think about all of the work that you're putting in now with all of these boots on the ground, and that come election day and the days afterwards, that you will have a second wave, a second crew, off the flank coming in to shore up all of the work that you did. How positive is that for you and your team that's out there?
I think that people have to realize this. Let me get in the weeds a little bit about some of this PA election law. Okay. So this election, if there are enough provisional ballots, meaning ballots that do not follow the rules of mail-in votes, but they receive them and put them in a provisional pile, we should not expect to win this thing in the courts. Okay, Republicans will either win this on election day or Democrats will win it in the courts. That's the breakdown. And the way we avoid them winning it in the courts is we have to have more of a win margin than there are provisional mail-in ballots. And so you guys okay if I get in the weeds on this? A little wonky.
I love it. Let's do
it. Yeah.
So in Pennsylvania, when you send in a mail-in ballot, you have to sign it. You have to put the month, the day, the year, and it has to be in a secrecy sleeve. So that's 5 different things that if it's wrong, it gets put in a provisional pile. But there's 67 counties. So do the math. 67 times 5 different piles. Those are all individual court cases and court decisions. And the reason I'm so passionate about this, we had a primary back in the spring. We took out an incumbent rhino, replaced them with a free market, hardcore liberty legislator. We won by 8 votes out of nearly 20,000 votes cast. So what did the rhino do? He challenged and challenged and challenged using all the Democrat talking points. And by the way, I want every legal vote to count. But for it to be legal, you have to follow the rules, right? And so then each of these batches get put through the court system, and the court has to rule on it. And what I found with a lot of these judges, even if they're Republican, they don't want to disenfranchise voters. They don't feel like there's enough case law and that there's enough to solidify them making a decision that says, well, if somebody didn't sign it, but they had the intent to vote, we're going to count it. And so a lot of these were counted. Now, luckily for us, we ended up still winning by just a handful of votes. It was certified. But guys, the primary was in the spring. This election was certified 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
That's how long these things take. Now, for a presidential race, they'll probably expedite it a little more. But I'm just telling you, we have to beat the margin. The margin that we win by has to be greater than the amount of provisional ballots, because they're going to fight for any of those that they can. But remember, Democrats usually have an 80-20 lead. That's been the average of all the statewide candidates when you put all the mail-in ballots together. So they want as many of those mail-in ballots to count, because every single time you count those ballots, they're adding a 60% gain. Our program at the PA Chase, we're saying if we can go from 20% to 80, bring that Republican number up from 20 to 33. If you do that, we're still losing. They're still getting twice as many as we are. But the margin doesn't create this environment where every batch that comes in, boom, the middle of the night batch, right? That all of a sudden it's like, wait, how did that? Well, because it's 80-20. That's how. And they got that whole batch to count. Exactly. So that's why I tell people, if we get to 33%, we solve the problem, because we know Republicans are going to vote on election day. We don't need 33% to win. We could win with even 25%, 26, 27. But my objective in any of these political strategies I try to execute is not just putting a Band-Aid on it. How do we fix the culture? How do we fix the problem? So we're aiming for 33%, but we've got to get up from that 20% so that we're not getting crushed in these court cases after the election.
Folks, this is fantastic. I mean, to have somebody on the program like this, showing the way, giving us the way. I want to, we got a huge audience here, Cliff. I want, if people are not in Pennsylvania, or even if they are, how can they help you? Because I know you've got plenty of room to put people to work, right?
Yeah. So there's two major ways to help. All right. Number one, if you can sponsor a ballot chaser, it costs $175 to sponsor one of our ballot chasers for a full day of knocking. 100% of that money goes towards their pay, their housing, or their gas cards. You can go to pachase.com right now. You can donate $175 a full day, even if you can chip in $5. It goes to the ballot chasers. And look, to win the White House, you got to win PA. To win PA, you got to fix the mail-in ballot problem. That's what these ballot chasers are doing. The second way, anybody that wants to help remotely, download the PA Chase app. Android, Apple Store, or go to pachase.com. Sign up to volunteer. You can send texts, postcards, you can call remotely. And if you're looking to come to PA, we're going to be having some housing and things set up for folks that want to come in. If you're in a red state and you're thinking to yourself, Pennsylvania's the Mecca, we got to figure this out. This decides the future of the country. pachase.com. You can sign up to volunteer, make a note. You want to come into the state. We'd love to have you. This is all hands on deck. This is not going to be just because of us, this group, that group. We need everybody together singing from the same song sheet, and I think we pull off a victory.
Brian, Josh, you guys ready to go? Let's go, man. Let's go.
Man,
I love it.
So it's a good sale. I can see people like looking to sign up. The idea of winning is like it's felt elusive this entire time. Feeling like it might actually be possible. My father-in-law is going to be right.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, there is something about, we all say, oh, we got to go vote. You got to go vote. You got to go vote. Mm-hmm. But when you have these tools available where you can, you hear the tangible number, $175, and that's for this specific thing, or I can download an app and call people and say, return your ballot. I mean, all of this stuff is just really great, Cliff. I'm so glad we got to have you on the program today. We want to let you get out of here, but where can people follow you? I know you've already dropped a couple of URLs, but where I want one spot where people can follow you.
Yeah, on X is where we're giving a lot of the live updates on all the data, what we're seeing on the ground in Pennsylvania, and that's just at Maloney. Like Madonna, I was lucky to just get my last name and just stick to it. And then once again, pachase.com. Anybody that can chip in, anybody that wants to help. We don't care about credit. We just want to come together. We want to do the groundwork, and we want to win. And I'm very confident we'll pull it off if our people vote That's what we're aiming to do.
Fantastic. All right. And Brian, drop out where we can follow you.
On X at Gem State Brian, but follow me after you followed Cliff and given to his cause, because we need to win this.
Absolutely. Josh, we need to remind people censorship is coming, right? It's already here.
That's right. Hey guys, it's my favorite time of the whole show where I say, go follow us on Rumble. Please like and subscribe. YouTube's great too, but they ban everything. And of course, our X is where you can find everything. And you can find out that we're going to have awesome guests like Cliff Maloney coming on the show. And also our Instagram has all the latest on Diddy. I'm sure you want to know about that. A lot of people do, apparently. I mean, he's the new Epstein, everybody. And but otherwise, click that code there. And we thanks everybody for watching.
Yes, fantastic. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Cliff, Godspeed to you. And we'll see everybody here next week. Take care. God bless.